What's up, A to Z Sports here live on a Monday. Hope everybody's having a good start to your Monday. Hope everybody in the Middle Tennessee area across the state is safe after the scary storm situation from last night. I kept a lot of people up late, but some tornadic activity was coming through the area. So I hope everybody is all good as it is this time of year in our state and our region. But talking about the NFL owners meetings this morning because there is a lot of Brian Callahan comments out there on the internet. Buck Rising is down there in West Palm Beach having a good chat with Brian Callahan and the rest of a bunch of media about the number one overall pick, the quarterback situation, Will Levis still on the roster, and the report that came out over the weekend from Jim Wyatt about what has not been done with Will Levis, and also the smoke that continues to be around the number one overall pick and what the Titans are going to do. Is it just as simple as drafting Cam Ward? We'll get the update on the timeline from Brian Callahan, Titans head coach from West Palm Beach, and video from Buck Rising this morning. Zach, welcome in. I see you have March Madness at the end instead of the age games. I don't know if you've got something to deal with, but or if that's, if the age game has to do with March Madness, or if that's a March Madness in the show topic theme. I don't know what you've got planned for me, but I did not have a good Sunday yesterday with the Vols' terrible shooting out of the gates and getting walloped by Houston there in Indianapolis. What's going on?
Well, a little prediction time. We have the Final Four, all number one seeds, 1-1-1. So at the end of the show, we're going to talk majority of Titans, but end of show topic, we'll do our predictions like we've done in the past. Good switch up from the age game. We do have a big show on tap today, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We got you locked in there on YouTube. Make sure that we're going to send out those links segment by segment on our Twitter handle /X handle. I guess I need to start calling it X. It's been enough period of time where it's no longer Twitter. It's tough, but X handle at A to Z Sports. If you're a Titans fan, if you're an NFL fan leading up to the draft, at A to Z Sports NFL on our X handle. Like I said, we will be tweeting out segment by segment, link by link on our YouTube page. Make sure you subscribe, A to Z Sports Nashville on YouTube. You can go ahead and search that on YouTube. It's very, very simple. Once you subscribe, you've done that. You can go ahead and like the show. That's always a benefit and helps distribute the show there. And ring the bell. Live alerts when we go live. Whatever time it is, you will get a notification right to your phone right there, so you can get in on the action. That's not only morning show, but also prime time and Facebook. What's going on Facebook? Or bottom left corner of your screen. Share, not public. Sharing is caring, and caring is sharing, as we say on this show. Got a lot to get to. Let's get this party started on Monday morning.
Yep, let's officially welcome to A to Z Sports here live on a Monday. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Zach Bingham. We're Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. Hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more great Titans content. Got to thank our sponsors. They make it happen for us, and they help out all of you. Wilson County Hyundai, make them a part of your new car buying process. Seaman Lebanon or online, wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care, boneandjointtn.org. And our friends at Bart Durham Injury Law, a crash can change your life forever. Help is just a click away at bartdurham.com. It's also pretty easy to help us out by giving us a 5-star Google review overall on the company. So that goes a long way for us. So appreciate everybody being here. Buck Rising is down there in West Palm Beach, talking to Brian Callahan and others at NFL owners meetings. A lot of big conversations about the number one overall pick. Zach, we've got some video from Brian Callahan, but how have you been able to keep up with I know you're at a conference last week, so you're out doing other things, but how were you able to keep up with the buzz and the different types of smoke that's been thrown out there about the Titans and the number one overall pick now that we are entering draft month tomorrow? Tomorrow's April Fool's Day, so head on a swivel, everybody. But as you enter draft month tomorrow, how have you been following the Titans' number one overall pick options?
Well, look, knowing the league's cycle and circuit for the years that I've been covering the NFL, you kind of know how it goes. There are ups and downs throughout the offseason, whether it goes to Senior Bowl, Combine, free agency, and then free agency turns to, all right, what is going to be in between free agency and the NFL draft? There's going to be lots of as I call it, like draft PR. That's what Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport do. And they try to keep people engaged. And that's what they should do, because stock goes up and stock goes down. I think that the cream has started to kind of rise to the top of where teams have leaked out where they feel about certain prospects, right? Whether it was started with Abdul Carter's stress fracture foot, reaction of the foot.
His foot was reacting to stress.
Yes, right. So he had a stressed foot. Travis Hunter has just kind of been, staying the course in that sense. I mean, maybe the storyline of him being more of a wide receiver than a corner, I think that's kind of popped off. Shedeur Sanders, I think, has started to lull a little bit, but the value and desperation of teams needing quarterbacks have started to rise. And then you have Cam Ward at the forefront of this draft, where he is by far the best quarterback and the first quarterback that is going to be selected. It's just going to be by who. And then that goes into the Titans and what they've done. They have not just hitched their wagon to saying we've made a decision with Mike Borgonzi and Brinker and Callahan. They've got that whole front office, the Titans brass, as they say, has been non-committal to a singular pick, because they want to keep, I don't want to say dragging it out, but create intrigue from other teams. So that's kind of how I've been following it, probably like most, but I kind of see through a lot of the draft PR by the national analysts as they're just trying to get a little bit more juice out of things. And we haven't even hit April yet, and the draft's at the end of April.
Yeah, April 24th is night one of the NFL draft. And last week, Russell Wilson signs his contract with the Giants. And I think immediately I jumped to conclusion thinking that I've never believed more that Cam Ward was going 1 to the Titans and Shedeur Sanders was going 2 to the Browns than watching the Giants sign Russell Wilson right after signing Jameis Winston. But then you see Adam Schefter doing what you're talking about, the draft PR of going out on NFL Live on Wednesday and Thursday, I believe it was, and saying that Mike Borgonzi's open to anything, and the Titans are trying to position themselves. They love Cam Ward. They like Cam Ward, but they're trying to figure out how they can get the best offer possible if either of the Browns or the Giants at 2 or 3 want to move up. So that was that. And then this morning in West Palm Beach at NFL's owners meetings, Brian Callahan was talking to a group of media at a round table, and this was gathered by our Buck Rising, who's down there covering it for A to Z Sports and 104.5 The Zone. Brian Callahan talking and was asked specifically about the timeline of when they're going to know what they're going to do with the number 1 overall pick.
We're closer, I think. We have another touch point with the 2 players of Colorado with their pro day and a private workout with them. And then I would say probably we're about 2 weeks away-ish probably from being pretty dang close to what we want to do. But we'll still work through it. I think the one thing that's been impressive about Mike is very disciplined in his approach and his process, and I've appreciated that. And I think that he's going to go through every possible turn before we get to that point.
So Mike Borgonzi going to go through every possible turn before getting to that point. So 2 weeks, he says you're about 2 weeks away. They might know April 4th, which is coming up at the end of this week. That's Friday. That is the Colorado Pro Day for both Shedeur Sanders and for Travis Hunter. So that's another touch point. Last week was a busy Cam Ward week. On Monday was his pro day at Miami. And then on Friday, a lot of the Titans brass flew back down to Miami for the private workout. They've already had their 30 visit with Cam Ward. So they've kind of done all of their things on Cam Ward, but now trying to get the final things done here on Shedeur Sanders, and maybe it's Abdul Carter, who had his pro day, didn't do anything with it last week at Penn State, and then Travis Hunter, the option too. So, and yeah, Major Keys throws in there. Also, don't forget Shedeur Sanders will have a private workout as well. That is correct. And Zach, Easton and I threw out there last week that the Colorado Pro Day will happen on Friday. There will be a notable missing person from the Titans brass at that pro day. So that's something that's going to happen. I'm sure that will create a swirl of conversation about, the Titans aren't serious about Shedeur Sanders because so-and-so is missing from that pro day, but they will have a private workout with Shedeur Sanders. So timeline is interesting because Easton reported from talking to people at the Senior Bowl months ago that when Joe Burrow was the pick by the Bengals in number 1 overall in the 2020 draft, yes, 2020 draft, maybe 21 draft, that the Bengals knew they were going to get Burrow at 1 in late March, right? And so we are officially beyond late March. And that was deemed early by the Bengals scouting department to land on the decision of Joe Burrow's the guy. Late March was early. So mid-April, which is what Brian Callahan's throwing out there as a 2-week timeline, is probably fairly normal, I would think, for going through your process with the number 1 overall pick.
Well, look, it's the vetting process. You have to go through from start to finish unless you are willing to just waive some of that process and commit to a guy and kind of end this thing. We've seen that before, right? We've seen it, Trevor Lawrence, he was going to be the number 1 overall pick. Joe Burrow, obviously Caleb Williams last year, that because they had traded Justin Fields and made the moves that they did, that made a lot of sense, and everybody and their mother knew that was going to happen. But this is a little bit different because of what I think the quarterbacks represent. And honestly, you got a brand new general manager in there too. So he's never been GM before. We always go back to this. When Mike Vrabel turned head coach, he had never been head coach before. And we all remember London against the Chargers and some of the decisions. And it took him some time to be as good of an in-game coach as I think he became compared to where he started, right? And so I think this is positioning, look, Brinker's decision maker versus Borgonzi, that whole stuff has been shaken out at least throughout this offseason. But if you're a brand new general manager, I think it is your responsibility. You might as well see it through to the full ability because you hadn't done this before. It's not like you can lean on your 5-6 years of experience and this is just another rodeo you're going through. So I'm not surprised whatsoever that they are being as thorough as possible given the prospects and the position. But really, I think that also is Mike Borgonzi, and I think that helps him. I think it's a positive. It's not a negative.
Well, I'll take it a step further. Regardless if you're a first-year GM or not, even a lot of GMs never have the ability to draft the number 1 overall pick. So you could have 6 years of experience and never have this type of experience of having the number 1 overall pick. And the NFL
never has it again.
Yeah, right. For sure. So John Robinson had it and immediately traded away right after he got the job. So Mike Borgonzi hasn't done that yet. Chad Brinker hasn't done that yet. But that is the option that they're throwing out there. And so let's get to this other piece of video here because Brian Callahan was asked specifically, why not just commit to Cam Ward? Because Easton's been very strong that he said 99% chance last week. He thinks the Titans are drafting Cam Ward. I'm at a 95% chance that that the Titans are drafting Cam Ward at number 1, especially after I moved up a few percentage points after the Giants signed Russell Wilson. So it feels like it's going to happen. They put a lot of resources into last week alone on Cam Ward. So Brian Callahan was asked, why just not go out and say, yeah, we're going to draft Cam Ward number 1 overall. Here's Callahan from owners meetings this morning.
Working it the way you guys are. Yeah, I get where that sentiment would come from. But I'll just say this again, the one thing that Mike has preached this whole process is that we're going to go through it. And that means making sure we're doing our due diligence on all the players available, all the options available. I think that's the right way to go about it, is to make sure you're doing the right things by every player that's there for you and looking at all the options. And then when you make the decision and the decision's been made, then you move forward. But I think anytime that you just sit and you just pretend like there's nothing else out there, I don't think that's a disciplined approach. I don't think that you get a chance to look at the totality of the class. So I just think there's a part of doing the job the right way, and I think that's our approach. And again, once we make the decision, no matter what it is or who it is, we'll be thrilled to death. But I think the right thing to do is to do it the way we're doing it and make sure that you turn over all the rocks and you go through all the things you have to go through until you get to that point.
All right, so Zach, let's ask the question here. Should the Titans commit to drafting Cam Ward or continue to play the mystery draft game? Should the Titans commit to Cam Ward or continue to play the mystery of the draft with this game, as they have 25 days from being officially on the clock on draft night? We'll get to your opinions. Should they commit to Cam Ward or continue with all the mystery? But first, the Bone and Joint Institute is where you should turn. If you've got like a mystery pain, mystery injury out there, then make sure you don't let that thing linger and get worse. You go get it checked out when you need it. boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Make sure you don't fumble on that recovery. They've got all the experts, the doctors, the support staff, and the resources under one roof, right next door to Williamson Medical Center in Franklin off of I-65 and Highway 96. It could not be easier to get to in a pinch or just for your convenience. They've been doing this for 5 years now, been with us for a long time as a great sponsor of our show, and they've pulled some of the best physicians and doctors from the Middle Tennessee area to create their own practice, and that is how the Bone and Joint Institute became the resource for us too. Whenever we have injuries pop up in sports dealing with the Titans, we have a chance to dive into their experts on what those injuries mean and educate us on all of those things as well. So whenever you need to book an appointment, book it right there online with them, boneandjointtn.org.
A to Z Sports. Make sure you like the show, subscribe, and give that Lou Man 5-star special on Google. Just go to Google, A to Z Sports, and then you'll see our business page. Give us a 5-star review, and we'll combat Louis' 1-star review that got disbanded by Google because it was not true, at least in our opinion, telling us that we were liars. We weren't liars. And the truth came out, and now we've had a ton of you guys go to the Google reviews. Give us that Lou Man 5-star special. We see him come in, so we appreciate each and every one of you guys. Like and subscribe on ATOZ Sports.
All right, so the question, and I just put up a YouTube poll, so we'll get some percentage data on that momentarily. Should the Titans commit to drafting Cam Ward or continue to play the mystery game, because they are currently playing the mystery game 25 days away from draft night? So, Zach, what are you seeing from the chat? Commit to Cam or play the mystery game?
Let's see. Tall Texas says don't commit to mediocrity, so maybe he is out on Cam Ward. Raz Biggie says stick and pick. It doesn't matter from Kinslow. Play the mystery game from IR. Richie's giving that ring and say, go ahead and get down on one knee and commit to Cam Ward. Eric's going with mystery draft. Play the mystery like Houston did with Stroud. So that was a mystery in the sense of what happened at the end. I think Slimy Little Dude, which has a unique username, does have a good point. Maybe go down to the 11th hour and see what happens, because the draft, even on CJ Stroud's draft, they got Will Anderson and CJ Stroud back-to-back. That had never happened in the history of the NFL in that circumstance. And maybe was that positioning because we had actually heard rumors swirling on the draft room. And even I was at the draft.
Yeah.
That the Titans were thinking about coming up to draft CJ Stroud
at 3, right? And I think like with that particular move, I thought that was a weird reaction, because that whole draft day, there was a lot of buzz. The Titans wanted to come up from 11 to 3 for CJ Stroud. The Texans were at 2, who were talking Will Anderson. And then like the Texans just took Stroud at 2. And so it's like the Titans didn't even have an opportunity to come up at 3. So I thought it was interesting that a lot of people were like handing like a victory to the Texans for bamboozling the Titans, when it was like, well, the Titans never had the opportunity to take him at 3 anyway. The whole thing was, if he gets past the Texans at 3, the Titans want to come up with the Cardinals at 3.
Right. But, and this is what we don't know because we don't know the phone calls. You had Arizona sitting there, right? And you had Monty Ossenfort, who had the connection with the Titans, and those phone calls apparently were swirling. But, the Cardinals were playing two-way because they were also talking to the Texans, obviously, to come up and trade that pick. So, honestly, I think the Texans absolutely had the leverage because they had the number 2 overall pick, right?
Yeah, right.
But if they loved Will Anderson and they weren't willing to do that, maybe do they take Will Anderson in 2 if the trade doesn't get down? I mean, I think that's something we'll never know because it already happened and they're never going to tell you the truth, right? But we did hear that rumor about the Titans, a division rival, liking CJ Stroud, needing a quarterback, and maybe willing of training. And look, ifs and buts, beers and nuts, and hindsight's always 2020. Looking back, CJ Stroud has made the playoffs the last 2 years, and the Titans are picking number 1 overall. So the results are in, at least in that sense. Demario says mystery. Corey also says leave it a mystery. Commit from Zach. Commit from Steven to drafting Cam Ward. Leave it a mystery from Terrence. Going through the chat, Ashley says mystery. Ward coming in from Pedro. Keep it a mystery, but I still want Cam Ward. Darius, and I think the Titans can obviously still do that. They can keep it a mystery and still select their guy. Commit and not draft Cam Ward. So Major Keys is out on Cam. Mystery, never let anyone know your next move there from Brendan. Why commit? It does nothing for you to commit. So look, there's a ton of different things. Mystery coming in from Danny. We've got commit, keep it a secret, keep playing the game, commit to Ward. I think this is pretty close. It's like, 55-45. It's close to 50-50, I think, in the chat of maybe what you do as a Titan.
Zach, I would let you to go first because I have a way of answering this question that I'm going to answer the question. I will answer the question before I say that, but I have a way that I think is what I believe the Titans will be doing. But I'll ask you, and actually I'll update the YouTube poll because we're 5 minutes in. It's a lot closer than I was expecting because 59% say play the mystery draft, and then 41% are saying commit to Cam. There's a lot more commit to Cam already than I was really expecting. I thought play the mystery was going to be a runaway with the poll, but it's very close. It's 59-41 right now. Play the mystery. So Zach, what is your answer on either commit to Cam now or continue to play the mystery draft game as we're 25 days away?
I think the consensus is that they are going to commit to Cam, right? Like eventually, whenever that is.
Well, I mean, at some point they have to, like,
right?
Yeah.
Or commit to something else. I mean, they could go a different direction, but I've maintained this. We've talked about this for weeks when I've been on the show, is never play your cards. That's the art of negotiation, right? Or when you play your cards, make sure you got an ace in the hole. Like that is, it's negotiating 101. And I love that game because you want the mystery of the draft to continue to build and the anticipation is palpable, as they say. Continue to do that. And I think you can in this draft. In other drafts, you can't. You can't pull one over when Joe Burrow is the clear number 1 pick in the NFL draft. There's no question because he is the dominant quarterback. He just won a national championship coming off a historic year. Like, okay, you're not going to fool anybody. But this year is different because it has kind of, I mean, obviously, as I mentioned before, the cream has risen to the top where Cam Ward is the best quarterback prospect through the eyes of the majority of the people picking, right? So, like, he's going to be the first quarterback taken. I don't think that we'll hear a crazy thing there. But I think we've also heard that the Browns are interested. The Browns are not secure in their quarterback ways because of what happened with Myles Garrett and maybe what they told Myles Garrett. Then you had the Dak Prescott rumors coming out last week, right? So the Giants, because the Raiders have already gotten their guy. We already saw Geno Smith go in free agency, right? So I don't want to say they're off the board. The Jets are a little bit further down, but they got their guy in Justin Fields, right? So, like, there are people off the board, but there are still teams on. And the 2 teams that are still on the board are right behind you. This begs to what the asking price is. The Titans should continue to keep it a mystery all the way down until the Browns sit there and tell you we're out. We're not going to trade. Okay. So we're going to go this direction. We feel like but I don't think the Browns are going to do that. So I think you keep playing. And then the Giants, we know they're desperate. I mean, Russell Wilson is not the savior of the promised land. They need especially to sell to New York fans. That's important, right?
I think it's easier to sell Jameis Winston's entertainment value to the New York Giants fan base than Russell Wilson.
I agree with that, right? Which is wild to say. So, and then I think the final X factor is Mike Borgonzi is going through the process. Going through this process will help the general manager of the Tennessee Titans, Mike Borgonzi, and Chad Brinker and Brian Callahan in the future of diagnosing talent, talking to people. It's reps as the decision maker or reps as the big dog. That's important. Not only is it just quarterback reps, it's general manager reps, it's head coaching reps, it's offensive coordinator
it's social game reps, right? Because like they have the power, right? Because of Sam, I watched Survivor last fall, and that's kind of jumped into some more reality TV. And the fact of like one player has power in the situation, and everybody else has to kind of go to that person and have a conversation. How do you play the power card that you have? And Mike Borgonzi, Chad Brinker, and Brian Callahan have that power. Now, so somebody did say, Just Smash asked, quick question, has any of the GMs on the roster the Titans have ever had the number 1 overall pick? And so the Titans have like 4 general managers kind of because they've got Chad Brinker, who's president of football ops, Mike Borgonzi, who's the actual general manager, then Dave Ziegler, who is the assistant general manager, and then you have Reggie McKenzie, who you can't forget about, who's like a senior assistant professional scout or whatever his title is. It's kind of made up because it's good to have him in the building. So all 4 of those guys, minus Brinker, have actually been a general manager now. So Brian Callahan actually has had experience with the number 1 overall pick as an offensive coordinator with Joe Burrow. Mike Borgonzi has had first overall pick experience when he was in Kansas City, but that was back in Eric Fisher year, 2013 or whatever it was. And so that was a long time ago. That was before Borgonzi continued to climb the ladder in Kansas City. There was a couple GMs for Kansas City ago. And Reggie McKenzie, I don't think the Raiders had the top pick when he was there. Dave Ziegler was not with the Raiders as a GM long enough to have the top pick. So I know Callahan and Borgonzi have been in that situation. Chad Brinker has been with the Packers since 2009 and then now here. So he has not been in that spot either until now. So you've got 2 guys of your 5 that are kind of running the show that have this experience. One guy drafted a quarterback, Joe Burrow. The other guy drafted an offensive lineman with Eric Fisher. And so that, they've seen this play out.
Here's the other thing. There's no reason to do it because you're going to continue to get these prospects best because they still think that there's an opportunity. You still want them to showcase their best attributes, whether it is the characteristics in an interview or whether it's a pro day or whatever. Like, you want them to continue to go for it. You don't want to just hand it over. So that's why I've always maintained the craziness can happen at the end of the draft. You know more along the way, but you keep this a mystery. I think in this particular draft, you have the power. Continue to yield it.
So my answer to the question is they should continue to play the mystery game for the next week or so. Like because after Shedeur Sanders' pro day and the private workout with Shedeur, I don't know when exactly the private workout is, but the pro day is on Friday. I believe the Titans will have had all of their touch points, as they call them, with the top 4 guys. 30 visits, pro day, combine, bowl games, whatever it may be. At that point, I think they will start to truly commit. And honestly, here was my answer to the question. I was going to get a little intricate of what I actually think they're doing. I think there's a very strong chance that the Titans have internally committed to Cam Ward. That Cam Ward on March 31st probably feels like he's going to be a Tennessee Titan. He might be calling realtors, getting things set up, start looking for condos and apartments in downtown next to the facility. I believe Cam Ward's probably doing some Nashville homework already. I think he probably feels like good about it because of what happened last week with his pro day and the private workout. They had dinner with Cam Ward Sunday night last week, spent Monday with him at his pro day, then flew back down on Friday to hang out with Cam Ward for the private workout where he threw, met, all this stuff, right? That's a lot of exposure in 6 days of time with a prospect. And I think the Titans may have and could internally have committed to Cam, but they're going to play the mystery game publicly because it's the smart thing to do. Because one thing that you don't know, like we don't know if something is going to happen, and you hope it doesn't for Cam Ward's sake, over the next 25 days. Something, you know how we've both been through this, right? When you sign all the contracts for your wedding and you're like, oh, this is your hold to this contract unless there's an act of God, right? The act of God that comes through here and blows up the wedding plans, and it's something that you can't handle. It happens. Like the Titans probably have like the act of God clause in this conversation with Cam Ward of, we have to make sure that the unforeseen thing happens, that we are not going to have our foot in our mouth when something like that happens. And hopefully it doesn't, but I think that's where they're at. I think they have internally committed to Cam Ward, and it's going to take some ridiculous like act of God thing to blow up the plan on wedding day on April 24th.
Or the draft smoke could go a little bit further with Laramie Tunsil. Like
Yep.
There's I don't know if that was an act of God, but it was an act of gas mask.
No, that was somebody pushing send on a video tweet.
But like, right, you have no idea of what could happen. And that goes back to, there is no reason. There's no reason to commit. And that's okay. Continue to hold the mystery. And I think that creates value. Now, eventually you're going to have to make a decision. We all know that, right? But March 31st, prior to April, you got 20 plus days. Go through your process, and I don't fault them for it, right? Like, I think I don't know if you heard this, and I'm sure you did over the last couple of weeks, but I read something where like now the ante is up where they want 2 future first round picks to move back, right? Like that's your king's ransom, right? You always talk about king's ransom.
The Godfather offer.
The likeliness of one going from 3 to 1 with 3 first round picks, I just, that's not going to happen in my opinion. But at least it sets a bar to who knows if somebody gets desperate, like you don't know. You don't know. So I like what they're doing, and I'm not playing into the game. Still think it is going to be Cam Ward, but protect against the position that you have. And I think that's a good
of like, how can you find out, like, would it be worth the Browns or the Giants to move up 1 or 2 spots to get Cam Ward and give up 2 future firsts? And I'm trying to think of like, if you can ask a question with retrospect and hindsight in hand of like, is that worth it? Right? Like, would it have been worth it for, let's just say, Washington at the time, who was picking second? And I guess they had Kirk Cousins on a franchise tag in the 2020 draft. Would it have been, which, they're kind of committed to, but not really, kind of like the Browns are with Deshaun Watson. Would it have been worth for Washington to give up 2 future firsts to go get Joe Burrow at number 1 instead of drafting Chase Young at number 2 and just sticking with Kirk Cousins on a couple franchise tags and letting him walk? Like, is it worth that price? Like, is Joe Burrow, in hindsight, would he be worth 2 future firsts for the Commanders now in that situation?
Well, that's one side. And then LAC brings back, what the 49ers did. And that obviously wasn't. So like, if you're going to do it.
But here's the thing. The Niners moved from 12 to 3. That was a big jump.
Well, a big jump is number 1 overall. Right? I mean, when you talk about a big jump to go to the number 1 overall pick in prime position, Bryce Young's the same way, right? The Panthers moved up a lot to go to the prime position. So the value there, I think you say the comparability of you could turn into Joe Burrow Or you could, I mean, Bryce Young has kind of gotten better, but still has been slow to progress and doesn't have maybe the physical attributes, and that's been in question. But I think the question is the quarterback class. Cam Ward, if you're going to do that, better be the guy. You cannot be wrong. And the 49ers, and I think this is key, when they found Brock Purdy, it softened the disaster of that decision. If they don't find Brock Purdy, we're sitting here saying maybe that's one of the worst moves that John Lynch and company could ever do in NFL history.
Oh, I think it's up there with one of the worst draft trades in NFL history. I think it still is, but it was overshadowed and saved by Brock Purdy.
But we won't remember it like that. We won't say, oh, you really, because the repercussions of a decision are the most important thing, right? You get a car accident and total your car, you win the lottery the next day, and you're driving around in a Lamborghini, nobody remembers a car wreck. So I think you're in a situation where the 49ers are unique because it's not as memorable because of what actually happened, where the Panthers are still dealing with that. I think look, it's trending better, but at one point when Bryce Young was on the sidelines and got benched.
Well, a car accident is what got him back on the field.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. And so when that flipped and all of that changed the perception, right? Perception is key. It's not always reality, but that's why I don't think these teams like the Giants and the Browns that notoriously, I mean, after Eli Manning, the Giants have struggled. Daniel Jones was never the guy, even when they paid him. That was a Blake Bortles contract, and everybody knew it. Everybody in their heart of hearts knew it. Probably even the Giants when they signed it, which is the problem. The Browns, they don't have a lot to fall back on their history. I don't think that those two franchises can afford to do that and be wrong. So that's why I think it's probably out, but it doesn't mean the Titans can't continue to play the game.
Yeah. So the poll now, 20 minutes old poll. I don't think we're going to move much when it comes to percentages at this point. But the poll now is, should the Titans commit to Cam Ward or continue to play the mystery draft game? 47% says commit to Cam Ward. 53% play the mystery draft. I'm going to end the poll now. And I actually ended it and it shifted again. It was 52-48, which is not what I was expecting the poll to be. I was not expecting it to be basically a coin flip, but it is. So the Titans are actually playing a second game. We'll get to the second game that they're playing here in a second. But first, I want to tell you about our friends at Bart Durham Injury Law. Crash can change your life forever. Help is just a click away at bartdurham.com. Bart Durham Injury Law has been helping Tennesseans and Nashvillians for 50 years because Bart Durham, opened the doors for business back in 1975, and he passed away almost a year ago last April. And his son Blair, who had been a part of the company for a long time, is doing a phenomenal job of helping out the community and keeping the great Bart Durham Injury Law name rolling. Blair is awesome Nashvillian, does so many things in the community behind the scenes that none of us see. But what we do see is all the time, Bart Durham Injury Law is helping out people in need and helping you get paid what you deserve for whatever you go through. A big truck wreck is Bart Durham Injury Law's fight for justice. Any car accident is Bart Durham's Injury Law's fight for justice, and they're there for you. So check them out online at bartdurham.com.
A to Z Sports. Don't forget to give us that Google Luman 5-star special review right there on Google, A to Z Sports, and like and subscribe the show. We talked about at the beginning of the show on YouTube. Make sure you have that live alerts on so your phone gets alerted when we go live. That's content galore. Our subscribers are going up. We're over 20K. We're trying to get to 25 and 30 and so on. So lock in and like and subscribe.
All right. So the Titans are playing two games now. One is the mystery draft game of Cam Ward. They're open to anything. They're going through their process. They'll get more data on Shedeur Sanders, more touch points on Shedeur Sanders with his pro day at Colorado at the end of this week. And then also with a private workout that's also upcoming. Then there's Will Levis, because this came out over the weekend from Jim Wyatt. So Jim Wyatt has this at Titans.com from the NFL owners meetings. This was last night. Titans have not discussed trading quarterback Will Levis with anyone. Quote, what's the plan with Will Levis? The plan with Will Levis is that he has a chance to compete for a starting job next year. That was Chad Brinker talking with Jim Wyatt. So, a starting job, maybe Will Levis has a chance to compete for a starting job next year. Is it in Tennessee? I doubt it. But here was Brian Callahan when asked by Buck Rising this morning at owners meetings about what they're continuing to say about Will Levis now that they've also signed Brandon Allen and last week Tim Boyle to the quarterback room, with what we're assuming is Cam Ward to be added soon too.
You guys have been pretty consistent on Will and adding competition, even when we talked about it at the end of the season. How unique of a situation is this for him, though, continuing to add pieces and potentially still have yet to add more?
Yeah, I think that's the NFL, at the end of the day for him. I had a very straightforward conversation with him when the season was over and when we were getting ready to leave for a little bit of time, and just said, look, you worry about you. Don't worry about anything else. Control the things you're capable of controlling, and put the work in for yourself. It doesn't matter what we do or how we do it. Expect there to be competition, and I'm excited to see what he looks like when he gets back.
I think that's the right message that Brian Callahan said to Will Levis, was control what you can control. Don't worry about what we're doing. Go out there and get better, and you'll be better for it. So that's, he's still on the roster. They've been playing this game consistently throughout the entire offseason. But Zach, what are your thoughts on the future of Will Levis? Because I just don't see there's any way that he is on this roster by the time training camp opens in July.
Well, he still is your asset, right? So there's no reason to talk down to him or say that he sucks or he can't do it. Like, you need the words of encouragement should ring true to Will Levis to give him hope to work hard, and not to say that he wouldn't already, but you want the confidence of your franchise regardless of the last year and a half of play. And they haven't openly come out and said that they're going to trade him, right? Like, it'd be different if they said that Will Levis, like, they could have, let's say last week, we're committing to Cam Ward, Will Levis is on the trade block. Could have done that, but they didn't. And so I think they're saying all of the things that need to be said based on a quarterback still on your roster trying to compete. And look, I don't know what's going to happen. I always go back to the responsibility of a backup quarterback. What you want in your backup quarterback, I look at it in three ways. If your backup quarterback and you're still competing, like if your season's over and your starter is broken his leg or something like that, like, this is a different circumstance. Your backup quarterback should be able or could be able to win 2 out of 4 games or 1 out of 2 games. That is the key, or 1 game, right? So like in a crazy spot, could they do that? 2 out of 4. If they can go 2-4, that's unbelievable. Usually they go 0-4 or 1-3. With a quarterback, can they go 2-4? Can they go 500 to kind of bridge the gap of your season? Or if you have 2 weeks that your quarterback is out, can they win 1 of those? Or in a crazy spot, can they come in the third quarter and win 1? That's how I've always looked at backup quarterbacks. So the question that you would pose to yourself, can Will Levis do any of those? Probably not consistently, because if you become that consistently, then you probably earn more opportunity. Mm-hmm. But I think they've got to look themselves in the mirror to say, if Cam Ward is the quarterback, can Will Levis, if Cam Ward hurts his wrist and he's out for 2 weeks, can Will Levis win 1 of 2 games? On top of learning from what he has experienced over the last 2 years.
Well, how many games has Will Levis won so far in his season and a half as a starter?
Not many.
So can he win 1 of 2? The answer is probably not. So I agree with you on your backup quarterback philosophy, Zach. But Easton opened my eyes with the conversation last week after we talked about Brandon Allen being the backup. This is pre-Tim Boyle signing. what benefit does having a quality backup quarterback on the field do for the Titans this year? If it's Cam Ward, what benefit does having a quality like backup quarterback do for the Titans on the field this year?
Exactly what I just said.
Is that what's the point of
exactly what I just said? If Cam Ward's your starter and you are in a divisional battle where last year you played 3 divisional opponents at the end of the season, so anything is up for grabs. So if Cam Ward has gotten you to win 6 games in week 15 and he gets hurt, can your quality backup quarterback come in the third quarter and win 1 of 2 games or win 2 of 4? To get Cam Ward back to play in the playoffs if they make the playoffs. That's my answer.
That is the most optimistic answer you could possibly give.
But you asked me, why would you have a quality backup quarterback? That's the reason.
But they haven't done that. And I think that's where I'm looking at the moves that have been made so far this offseason is they know, again, they're going to go out and try to win every game they play unless it's week 18 and they have a chance to get the number 1 pick again. And they'll do exactly what they did this past week 18. But there's no, this year, there's no point of winning more games if Cam Ward's not playing. If Cam Ward is hurt, then be as bad as you possibly can.
See, I think you're
I think that's the reality.
A different stage if you have your franchise quarterback. I think last year, absolutely. Don't giants yourself, right? But if Cam Ward has the ability to come back, you want to win those games.
No, yeah. If Cam Ward is back, yeah, you want to win as many games.
That's why you have the quality backup.
But I don't think the quality backup does anything for Cam Ward winning as many games when he's healthy. I think that's the point here is that.
But it's helping Cam Ward get to playoff experience as quick as possible.
Brian, and if a backup says, are you quarterback, kidding me? Playoffs.
Well, look, you don't think that the Washington Commanders are saying that same crap last year? Playoffs? Are you kidding me? We just picked number 2 overall. They never would have thought of that. I mean, that happened, and I'm not saying that happened. The Texans, the Texans. You don't think that quality playoff experience from CJ Stroud in his rookie year helped? Yeah, it did.
Yes, it does. But
that's what you want. And so if a backup quarterback can help you get there, that is more important than anything else.
That's because the rookie quarterback didn't get hurt, and CJ Stroud played all games. Jaden Daniels played all the games, and they were able to win the games. I'm talking about if again, the Titans, the odds are the Titans are not going to be able to go from dead last in the NFL to be competing for a playoff spot, especially with the other moves that they've made.
Well, they didn't overpay for the position. Take away of who the backup quarterback is, it's a philosophy. The Titans went into this offseason and they saw Geno Smith go off the board. They saw the Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson saga. They saw Justin Fields come off the board. So all of the Jameis Winston eventually, right? You look at the price tag of the player, and their thought was, we're not going to do that. We're just going to go cheaper. We already have a backup quarterback, or we already have a quarterback in Will Levis on the roster. He's still an asset, and he is cheap, right? So, the philosophy was that. So I look less of it just played out to how it happened. It's irregardless of if you're drafting Cam Ward.
No,
that was the philosophy of the offseason.
So I think with Cam Ward as a number 1 overall pick this year, the Titans' backup quarterback's ability on the field in a game is as irrelevant as it could possibly be for this particular season, because it's all about Cam Ward. That is why I believe they signed Brandon Allen and why I think they signed Tim Boyle. Because Brandon Allen has 3 seasons of experience in Cincinnati working with Brian Callahan. Tim Boyle was an undrafted free agent found by Chad Brinker in Green Bay. Tim Boyle is also really good at game planning throughout the week. He might be a coach one day. I mean, the guy's 30 years old and he started 5 games in his career. Brandon Allen's 32 years old, and Will Levis has more career passing yards than Brandon Allen. There's a reason why these guys are still getting NFL paychecks. It's because of what they do during the week, not on game days and not on the field. And I think it's all about Cam Ward, and the ability of the backup quarterback on the field this year is as irrelevant as it could possibly be for this season only.
And I think we both agree they should trade Will Levis if they can. Like, if you can get something for Will Levis and you draft Cam Ward, you absolutely do it. Now, I guess my question to you is, what is that? What is the something that you would be willing to give up Will Levis? Is it a dog treat, or is it like a 5th round pick, a 4th round pick? Like, what is your...
I mean, if you can get a day 3 draft pick, sweet.
7th round pick, you're okay.
I mean, that would be a bummer, but it's better. Like, I would do it still.
That's why I was asking. Right?
Yeah,
the dog
I would
treat,
do it.
basically,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
yeah.
because your 7th round pick, So I'm curious to see what the Titans think about that. If they're a little bit more, hey, we feel like because the worst thing that could happen is Will Levis leaves and has a better career, right, than what we've seen. And that could possibly happen because the bar's so low of what we've already seen from him. But I think they're probably trying to talk him up so they get a 5th round pick, you absolutely do it, right? But the probability is more like a 6th in my opinion.
Which I'm fine with. I think he's likely to be traded on day 3 of the draft this year, like within the draft.
I think they should if they draft Cam Ward.
Yeah. A comment I wanted to read real quick. Adam says, have to trade Will Levis. Keeping Will could divide the room. So I don't think that's the case. I do think there would be a lot of awkwardness overall because of how hard the Titans marketed Will Levis last year as the future and the face of the franchise and how bad it flopped. But I don't think Will Levis is going to make it awkward in the locker room personally. He is not going to be a diva. He is not going to that's what I'm saying. He's not going to create drama that doesn't need to be there. I just think it's a natural awkwardness because of how the team went all in on it. I mean, the Tennessee Titans had never, Zach, and this is going to make you cringe a little bit, but the Tennessee Titans, for the first time in their history, had an official mayonnaise.
That's what I was about to say. If anything, Will Levis can get Cam Ward some like Cuts gear or some protein powder on the side.
But I mean, like the Tennessee Titans have never had an official mayonnaise. The Tennessee Titans until last year.
Yeah, and you know what? That sucked. It represented exactly what the condiment is. No good. Woo-wee, right? Bad advertising is not worth it. In my opinion, I've always maintained this. Bad advertising is not worth it. And I think that Will Levis got a lot of that. So look, I'm not going to get back into that because it infuriates me, but you try to openly trade. That's what they're doing. They're saying this about Will Levis, that he can still compete, because they're trying, I think, to, hype him up a little bit for draft day to hope, makes the most sense to ship him off for Will Levis's sake too, right? That player is involved. You want him to go after it, and you're not going after anything. You're just going to complicate things if you're on this roster with the number 1 overall pick and trying to compete, because that's not the situation if Cam Ward gets drafted by the Titans. Because you have to go all in if you're the Titans.
Sure.
Blue jerseys galore.
I don't like it. But and me just says Malik 2.0 coming if they trade Levis. About Levis coming back to Nashville and beating the Titans. I mean, who knows? But again, like,
that's okay.
You can.
Malik Will's not going to be this unbelievable, future franchise starter. He came and beat you, right? So
yeah, because you were expecting to play the JV squad. The JV squad.
I did too. I remember. I thought he was going to get sacked 13 times, and the guy played lights out.
Yeah, he did. And Mejan, another super chat, says the best part is Cam seems excited to be a Titan. I mean, why wouldn't he? Like, I don't know. I haven't seen anything that's like, oh my gosh, look how excited this guy is to be a Tennessee Titan. I just think he's excited. It looks like they've developed a genuine relationship with the interactions that we saw from the pro day last week in Miami with the Titans brass. So that's good. And so anybody would be excited to go number 1 overall. All right, Zach, anything else to add before we get to our end of show March Madness conversation here?
No, I think be interesting over the next 2 days with NFL owners meetings. What's going to happen? Tush push. Things are going to be changing. I don't know what's going to change in the next 2 days, but this is why we saw the kickoff rule and that whole setup, right? So these are very like subtly important days that I would be locked into A to Z sports.com for some information and changing things for NFL owners meetings. So
agree. Yeah, Buck's down there. We got a couple other people down there for A to Z sports.com as well. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And tomorrow's April Fool's Day. So head on a swivel for the ridiculous stuff that comes out about NFL owners meetings. Accepting or denying rules on April Fool's Day is an interesting scheduling factor too. All right, time for the end of show topic, a little March Madness discussion. But first, Wilson County Hyundai should be a part of your new car buying process. When you go see them in Lebanon, you'll save some money on that new ride. Say hey to Payne Bone Forrest while you're there. He's a great guy running things at Wilson County Hyundai. So they can set you up with a great new vehicle online, wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Zach, I will let you take it from here. What'd you have in mind talking March Madness here?
I want to know, the chat, how does this Final Four play out? If for the second time in history you have 1, 1, 1, and 1, all 1 seeds, right? So you're going to have really good competition. I obviously think this is a product of NIL and transfer portal, right?
I mean, you saw the graphic of the Sweet 16 rosters and where everybody started their college career.
Nobody's the same, right?
Except for Purdue.
It also is a product what I learned in this year's Final or this year's Elite Eight. I'm be curious to see what happens in the future. If you go on like a shooting drought early in the game, the other team as a 1 seed is good enough to not let you get back in. And you saw that with Houston, good defensive team, and the Vols shot the worst that they could ever shoot. Sears for Alabama, 3 for life, had no points. Like that's their best player. It didn't show up. Yeah. And then you obviously Michigan State had the early drought to get down by 10. They never recovered. So like there's a theme here. And I think that's a product of the team. So the question is what happens in this Final Four between you've got Auburn and Florida in an SEC battle and Duke and Houston to then face. So I'm curious to see also comparative to what your preseason pick was or pre-tournament.
My pre-tournament, I had Michigan State over Auburn in that region. I had Florida and Duke, and I did have Tennessee making the Final Four. But I had Tennessee over Gonzaga in the Final Four, and the Zags had Houston on the ropes, man, in that second round. And that was my thought on how Tennessee would get there. The path was to have Houston go down, and I think you've seen all the 1 seeds except Duke have some little tight moments, right? Like Houston had to get past Gonzaga. Florida's had 2 of them, right? Auburn, I think, has had one.
They had a scare really early, but then they got back. So,
but who did Auburn play in the Sweet 16 game Friday night? I'm losing it right now. Anyway, but like there was a couple tight moments there for Auburn too. Michigan had Auburn on the ropes. So everybody but Duke has had that tight moment. I just think Duke is inevitable. I think Duke over Florida is inevitable. And I think Duke is too long. Houston's really good defensively, but Tennessee's not a tall, long team, and Tennessee doesn't get off shots quickly. Tennessee needs open shots. Chaz Lanier is a very structured basketball player. I've had this take, Zach, you'll understand this. I feel like I watched Chaz Lanier play basketball. He grew up playing indoor basketball and organized tournaments under a lot of structure, worked really hard, got there talented, all that stuff. But he didn't have enough outdoor ball game. Not enough out of structure.
That's Houston.
And that is Houston, all out of structure.
Houston came like outdoor ball
face.
And then finally got coached, and that's what it probably. Yes. I love the storylines here. I think Duke has the best starting 5. I think Houston has the best defense. I think Florida has the best roster from top to bottom, and I think Auburn's the best coached. And you're going to play this out in a scenario of who's going to win. It's obviously a game of runs. Who's going to make the run and when that is going to happen? I do believe Duke and Florida make the most sense because raw players win these games. I think at this state of where we are, Duke has the best player, and Florida has guys that can come in and play, and they're still 7 feet and stretch fours and like unreal, right? I have in my bracket Florida beating Duke in the final. I'm going to go for Duke because I would like to. I think Cooper Flagg is unbelievable. Like, he's a joy to watch. Like, talented, high basketball IQ, not a ball hog, smooth, can finish, can defend, like checks all of those boxes. So for storyline purposes, Florida Duke. In my bracket, I have Florida winning, but I think I'm going to be cheering for Duke. I did put a future bet on Duke at the beginning of the tournament, plus 350. So I'd like to see that cash.
There you go. There you go. For betting purposes, you'll like this. I was up, and I'm done. I'm done betting for the tournament. I'm done betting for the tournament. Zach, I'm up 23 units. From round of 68 to yesterday.
Favorites.
I was profitable on 7 out of 8 days. The only day I was not profitable was this past Saturday. And so I'm done. I've cashed out my winnings, and I am smiling about that. So
know when to fold them.
Yep, know when to stop. So I think it's going to be Duke over Florida. Duke is just so long. They're the only team that can match Florida's length. And I just think that they're better. Walter Clayton Jr. is a badass too. Like, I think Cooper Flagg's the best player in the country. I think Walter Clayton Jr. might be the coldest player in the country, just hitting shots off balance off 1 foot at the most big, huge moments. And it just hits nothing but nylon. It's insane. It's insane. So that is it. That's what I think is going to happen. Any other closing thoughts here? You see anything from the chat you want to bring up?
We'll play and you 23 units, you get limited. These sports books, they don't play around. So
my units are not
be careful out there, kids.
My units aren't get limited level. So.
No, right. It'll be a fun Final Four, I think. Hopefully you want good games. That's all you want. You don't want blowouts.
And I thought the chalkiest Elite Eight ever would have better games than what we saw. But, so what happens when 2 teams go cold on Sunday, and it's kind of a runaway after that. But all right, that's it for us. Shout out to everybody in the chat who has liked the show. If you have not done that, go ahead and do it on Facebook and on YouTube. Like the show, subscribe to our channels, leave us that 5-star Google review. Goes a long way for us, and we'll catch you guys the rest of the week, starting tomorrow morning on a Tuesday. We'll catch you then. Appreciate it as always.
Adios.